Hello everyone and welcome to the intro video for the Avalanche V2R. R stands for regulated. This is a 100 watt 21700 squonk mod. Alright, this is based on the very popular and well selling Avalanche V2, which I have here, and you can see that I've basically taken the same design and I have applied a chip to it. So let's just give you my quick elevator pitch about this mod. I love this mod. I'm very happy with it, and as somebody who much prefers mech, at least in the past, I really am happy with this mod, and especially this chip, because it really can kick out the power and do what I need it to do. The size is great. Even though, you know, it's bigger than the mechanical version, it's still very small. It fits in your pocket excellently. We have the clip-in battery design that I've used on several of my mods now. It's been well proven, it functions well, and customers seem to like it. You can run it exposed like this, or you can use the battery cover for added protection. I love the curves function, which functions a lot like boost mode. So when you have something like a dual coil build, you can get up to a claimed 150 watts. I'm not sure if I'm sure you get 150 watts on, the very first hit, but I can tell you that you're definitely getting more than 100 watts from this if you ask it to. And that means something important to me. You can use the nice 22 millimeter atomizers, or you can use a dual coil atomizer with this. I would recommend something that, a dual coil that has a little bit of restriction, but dual coil vaping is totally possible on this. I use the nitrous in dual coil mode on this all the time, and I absolutely love it. So next thing I want to do is I want to jump down, get into the nitty gritty, show you guys around the mod. But before we do that, let's take a puff. All right, boys and girls, let's look at the download portion of this video. So here's the canvas bag that your mod will come in. And then we have the Avalanche V2 right here. Quick shout out to Reload Vapor for the build mat I have. I really like their products. So we can see on the outside, we have the repeating Snowcat Mods logo pattern. This is the first pattern that I'm releasing, but I'm also going to be doing what is called the classic pattern. I don't have an example of that now, but if we look at this mechanical Avalanche V2, it's the smooth black with the single larger logo. So we'll be doing something like this as well. If we go around to the, we see a squonk window here. And if we go around, we can see the curved back, okay? We can see the mountain cutout logos. We can see another squonk hole. We can see the button. Button is very clicky, and I just locked it. Okay, we can see the joystick and USB-C charging. On the top, we can see the 510. This is from Stimmy Vapor. I've been using it a long time. I'm very happy with the quality that they produce. We can also see that the 510 is towards the center, but it's not completely centered. Then if we look on the bottom, we can see a hole. What you can actually see here is the squonk bottle, but what this hole is used for is it is so that you can get a tool inside to easily remove the 510 using a common tool, which I'll talk about later. So that takes us around the outside of the Avalanche V2. All right, so let's take a look at the internals. So I'm going to remove this battery door. You can see it pops right out. Sorry, I bumped the camera there. We have a battery here. Quick word about batteries. I recommend Molicel or Samsung. I do know that home tech batteries are quite a bit bigger, and they can have some issue with creating a gap here. So please, I would recommend sticking with Molicel or Samsung batteries. Okay, so if we look here, we can see on the bottom there is a little catch here to prevent the battery from falling out, and we can remove the battery from the top, or we can clip it in. Okay, so I'm going to put this off to the side, and when we look inside, we can see the silver plated copper contacts. Okay, so these are silver plated copper contacts. You can clean them up with a simple wipe. Okay, now we can also see the 510 from Stimmy Vapor. We can see a wire that connects to the positive side of the connection, and we can see the bottle from Stimmy Vapor. So let's remove this bottle now. All right, so let me show you how I remove the bottle, because sometimes people struggle with it. I push my fingers on both sides and I push it out like this. Okay, hold my finger back in there and release the tube, and the bottle comes out. This is the same bottle I've been using for many years now in my squonks. It is also from Stimmy Vapor. It's kind of weird shape, but I really like the way it works, and it fits well with the design of the two squonk windows. So if we look inside, we can see there are no screws showing. I want to address this white wire here, because I think some people are going to look at this and think, oh, why is that there? Well, it is there for two reasons. Number one, the extra length here makes it easier for the user to swap out the board. Okay, so this longer wire, you can get the connector out of the way, and it makes it easier for the user to swap out the board. The second thing is it relieves pressure placed on the 510. So if you have a really short wire, it can cause the 510 to sort of, instead of just always be coming up and down, it can kind of cause it to tilt off to one direction. So the added wire also helps with the performance of the 510. The walls are 3.5 millimeters thick on each side. All right, 3.5 millimeters thick. And this is made from PA12 nylon. The next thing I want to talk about is servicing this mod. I designed this so that it could be fairly easy for the user to tear this down, so that the end user is capable of replacing the body if it breaks, or possibly, less likely, the board. So the way that this can be taken apart is, as I mentioned before, you can put a driver through here and use a deep 12 millimeter deep socket here to release this nut at the top. Okay, we also release this nut here. Then we remove the 510, and then we can simply pull out this wall with a pair of pliers. There's no screws. And then behind that, you will see the board. You will release a screw in each of the corners of the board, and then the board comes out. So that is basically the process that you will use if you ever need to service this mod. You will not have to do any soldering. You just have to be able to use basically a pair of pliers, maybe a pair of tweezers, a screwdriver, and a socket. All of these tools you can easily find at any hardware store. So I've made this as easy as I can for the user to service. All right, boys and girls, the next thing we're going to talk about is the chip. So this is the EHE SX735J. It is one of their newest chips. It is a 100-watt chip, and I really enjoy this chip. I think the wattage performance is excellent. They have fixed whatever problems they had with parasitic drain, and the battery life is excellent. It hits hard all the way down to at like 20%. I'm really surprised. So unfortunately, I've tried a few times to get a good picture with my camera, but unfortunately it looks a little bit blurry here. All I can tell you is, in real life, I think that the screen is very sharp. I wish I could get a better view here, but nonetheless, I'm going to continue. So let's just talk about the information we can see here, starting from the top left. So in the top left, it says STR. STR stands for strong. That is the curve mode that I'm in. We can also see this purple bar at the top. This represents the battery level. We can also see a battery percentage in the top right corner. There's a small number over the top of the wattage. This is the puff counter, okay? Here we see the wattage, real nice and big for those of us with bad eyes. We can also see a pretty big resistance reading. We can see this bar right here, the set of bars. This is actually the curve. So in strong mode, we can see that it starts off hitting actually 20% harder than what's shown here. So 120 watts, and then drives down and then flattens out. We can see voltage. So voltage is something that's really nice. And we can also see amperage based on your build. So I think that's a really nice safety feature. In fact, why don't we throw an atomizer on right now? Okay. And we can see this turns yellow to adjust the wattage automatically. All right. And I can see here that with the way that this is currently set up, this is going to pull 37 amps from the battery. So that's too much, right? So why don't we drive it down a little bit? Okay. All right, so now we're down to 22. That's more in the range of a Samsung 30T. So that's what we can see on the screen. Okay, so the next thing is the joystick. So I've heard people complain about the joystick in the past, and I know that they've made some revision to improve the user friendliness of the joystick, and I think they've done a great job. So I'm not going to go through everything on the chip right now. I'm just going to go through the real basic functions, and I will have a separate video for an in-depth information on all the settings and stuff. So to adjust the wattage, we press down in the middle click, and we can move it up or down. Okay, it does move in 1 watt increments, which I'm going to tell you I don't love, but it is what it is. Then we click fire to enter, and then it's ready to fire. Okay. If we press down, that takes us into our curves mode. So the curves on this function a lot like boost mode on other mods. I can see this is set to, oh, here we go. We can see a lot better, kind of. So this is set to strong right now. If we click, we can go through some other stock settings. So this is just sort of flat. This is one that I set. It's maximum wattage, so this is actually says it will hit 150 watts. Then we also have soft. Okay, so curve modes is really nice. If you have maybe a build that is ramping up slowly, or maybe you're working with low wattage where really almost any coil is going to fire slow, you put it on strong mode and it will really improve the performance. So the other thing I like is 3 clicks to lock. So it's locked, 3 clicks to unlock. Okay, 5 clicks to enter the larger menu. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can do a hard off. We can change our mode. There is temperature control. I am not a temperature control person, so I can't really comment on that, but it is there. We have a puff counter, tweaks, which is some interesting things, stats, temperature, timeout, update, language. This has 8 languages available. Smart boost, which is sort of like, helps you choose your wattage when you put a new atomizer on. And then we have exit. Okay, so this is the screen. Again, I'm having trouble getting a good view of it, but I'm really happy with the screen. It can actually be extremely bright if you need it to be. This is at 50% right now. And overall, I am just super happy with the performance of this chip. It hits super hard, it gets great battery life, and to be honest, I think it's as good as a DNA purely in terms of wattage and battery life. I would imagine the temperature control is not quite as good as a DNA, and also you do not have something like eScribe with DNA for this chip. However, this is an excellent chip for wattage performance, for battery life, and that's why I went with it. They deliver all this at a lower price point that I pass on to the customer. So that's what I have to say about the EHE SX735J. So the next thing I want to do are some size comparisons. So the first thing I want to show you is something that many of you will be familiar with, and that is the Ravine. So this is the Boro mod I make. It will be available, continue to be available for sale, but I would like you to see that it is literally the exact same size, shape, and dimensions as the Ravine. So if you're familiar with the Ravine, you know exactly the size that you're getting with the Avalanche V2R or AV2R. So we can see that, you know, this is basically the exact same. All right, so the same size as the Ravine. Let's look at the mech version. So if you are not into regulated mods, I am going to also continue to make the mechanical version called the AV2 or the Avalanche V2. This has been on sale for over a year now, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get rid of it because it's probably one of the most well thought out designs. I'm not really sure that, at least in terms of the way the body is designed, that it can be improved upon. So this will continue to be available. But as you can see, for those of you who are not familiar, the AV2R is just basically the AV2, but made bigger basically to accommodate a chip. So you can see there's about, if I remember correctly, I believe there is another 12 millimeters added on to the front of this squonk window to make accommodation for the chip. The top is the same. They both accommodate a 25 millimeter atomizer. Okay. Let's look at something that's more popular these days, which is a Boro mod. So we can see a billet box here. As we can see, the billet box is taller and a little bit more narrow. Let's see if I can get a good. So it is a little, you can't even see it, but there is like another a couple of millimeters hanging off here. Let me see if I can get a better view. Okay, there we go. So we can see that this is basically about the same size as a Boro mod. A little bit shorter, tiny bit longer, basically the same exact width. Okay, if we compare side by side, and you can see how it is a little bit longer there. So by volume, it's about, by physical volume, it's about the same size as a billet box. So if you guys are into billets and you're looking to go into squonking, you can kind of compare the size to a billet. Let's take an old faithful, the Pulse V1. Unfortunately, I don't have a V2 to compare to, but we can see the V1 is, well, it's quite a bit blockier for sure. But I guess they fixed that with the V2. If we compare the length, we can see there's a little bit here hanging off. And then if we look at the top, we can see there's quite a big difference between the two. Okay, so I think you can get a 28 millimeter atomizer on here, and we can get a 25. So the AV2R compared to the Pulse V1, which is, it's still a very good mod, but the pocket friendliness of the AV2 is just really good. And that is how I design almost all my mods, is I want it to be carryable. And so that's why I often opt for sort of a longer but thinner design, because that is what fits best inside of your pocket. So that will do it for size comparisons. Again, the AV2R, is it the smallest regulated squonk mod? Absolutely not, but it is very, very small for being a 100 watt 21700 mod. All right, everybody, so thank you for taking the time to watch the download portion. The last thing I want to talk about is how to purchase. So one of the missions that I had when I started Snowcat Mods was I wanted customers to be able to go to a website, use their credit or debit or bank transfer to pay, and then they get their mod in the mail in a short period of time. For me, that's usually 10 to 12 days anywhere in the world. Shipping is $10 for 10 to 12 day shipping anywhere in the world, and I also have DHL available for those of you who want to use it. You go to my website, you enter the web store, you will see all the products that I have available and all the colors and all the variations. You add it to your cart and you pay. Also, I try my best to always keep at least some version of every mod in stock. So There means no fighting, no waiting for lists or necessarily waiting for, drops. If you want something there, of any of the products that I have, it should be available. I try my best. I can't promise it's always available, but it should be available. So the other thing that I do is on social media. I typically on Instagram and Facebook, every time I upload new units to the web store, I will take a picture and I will post that on Instagram. So if you are looking for something or you just want to stay up to date on what's being stocked, please follow me on Instagram. I typically restock 3 times a month, usually at the beginning of the week. Monday or Tuesday, you will see a post on Snowcat Mods, Facebook and Instagram about what's going onto the site. So again, everybody, I'm really happy with this mod. I love the way it turned out. It hits hard, great battery life, super comfortable in the hand, good in the pocket. So please head to snowcatmods.com to make your purchase.